Welcome to the Wheel With It podcast with your host, Devin Wieters. We're a community that is committed to celebrating diversity and inclusion, providing and promoting disability education and awareness, and having fun too. Remember to rate and review the podcast and enjoy the show.
Hey guys, welcome to our first episode as Wheel With It. I'm so excited. If you didn't know, we rebranded, we have a website, we're upping our social media game, all of the things to make this really a good experience for you guys to listen to and be a part of. Please give us a few months because it's a lot to learn. We are a two-people show, so it's a lot to learn. But we will be steadily improving this, and feel free to email us at hello@wheelwithit.com. Again, that's hello@wheelwithit.com. If you have any suggestions or questions or like to be a guest, just put something in the subject line that lets me know what you're writing to me about, and I will, get back to you as soon as I can. I will put that link in the show notes too. So today we have Laura C. Robb. She is delightful. I met her once at a Panera Bread because my therapist got to know her from selling organic lettuce, believe it or not. So we talk about that. We talk about her going to seminary. We talk about disability. We talk about a lot of things. And it's a little disjointed in parts. I'm sorry for that. I'm a little rusty. This is my first one back after a long break. Yeah, other than that, it's a great interview. And I hope you guys enjoy the show. And don't forget to go to wheelwithit.com, which I will put in the show notes. And yeah, enjoy the show, and I can't wait to make more of these for you guys. So tell us about yourself, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I'm Laura, and I have a blog that's at lauracrobb.com. I became a writer a number of years ago as I realized people that were meeting me didn't know a lot about my disability and the way my life looked outside of the few minutes that I was meeting people at church. So over time, I realized I needed to create more space for conversations, and I started blogging, and then more conversations also started in person as a result of that.
So what is your blog about?
It's about my experiences of life with a disability, and it's also, past couple years, I started Seminary, where I explore disability and theology. So I also write a bit about that so that people can learn about the disability experience and how it is a part of a lot of people's lives, but that doesn't take away from their identity and who God says they are as a person.
So for the people who don't know, I know, but for the people who don't know, what is your disability and what is it?
It's called arthrogryposis multiplex congenita. And that basically means I was born with a lack of muscle mass, and a number of my joints have what are called contractures. So my arms and my legs are affected.
And how does that affect you in your day-to-day life as a result of your disability, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, no, that's fine. It mostly means I need a lot of physical assistance to do tasks like getting up out of the bed and getting dressed. Somebody has to help feed me and give me a shower. Somebody has to either put me in my wheelchair or help me walk just by holding onto my arm. But once I'm in a corner, I can do my own task. So if I'm set up with my books, I can read my own books and write. Or if I'm at my desk that's a lower height, I can use my own computer. But the in-between task, I need a little bit of assistance.
So do you live on your own?
No, I live with my parents at the moment.
Okay. Because I was going to ask you how assistance works, because I've navigated that while looking to live on my own, and it's almost impossible. So if you lived on your own, I was going to be like, oh, how does that work? But you don't
know. It is very tricky. I lived more independently when I went to college back a number of years ago now. And so I coordinated caregivers and nurse aides during those years. But right now it is a bit difficult where I live to find consistent caregivers and help in order to live on my own.
And you live in Virginia, right?
Yes.
Me too. So I actually met you once. I don't know if you remember this, but I actually met you once because my former physical therapist brought organic lettuce from you, and she told me about you, and we met at Panera Bread.
Yeah, I remember meeting you. I remember.
Yeah, that was crazy. And now we're here talking on a podcast. So you mentioned earlier that you deal with disability and theology. Tell us about what you've been learning through that, because that's just fascinating.
Yeah, it's been a really cool opportunity for me to explore my own personal questions and just to bring theology more open to my blog readers and help people understand that disability is a type of what I call like a human limitation, and every human has limits of some kind. But that doesn't mean I'm not an image bearer like God called humans in Genesis. So I think it's important to talk about disability and theology together, because in the churches as a whole, we don't commonly hear about disability and how I, as a person with a disability, still have gifts to bring to the church. And that goes back to the gifts of the Spirit that we hear about in, I think it's 1 Corinthians or 2 Corinthians. People with disabilities can often be overlooked inside the church and not really given the opportunity to use their gifts. So a few years ago, I started teaching the preschool kids because that was something I could do from my wheelchair. And I taught kids for 4 years. And then that was something where I said, hey, I can do this. Will you give me the chance? And then a few years later, I spoke to my church and shared my testimony, and that helped more people to see me as a person and understand a little bit more about my experiences. And I was also invited to be a youth leader after that, because the person in charge of our youth ministry thought, hey, Laura can do this. So there was a contrast between me advocating for myself versus me being invited to participate, if that makes sense.
Yes, and that's the reason why I love my local churches, because they have a kids disability ministry and adult disability ministry, so they really are better than most at including people with disabilities, so I love that about them. But has your church made any changes since you've done all that?
It's been a bit more difficult for me to answer that question with the pandemic. I haven't been able to attend in person very well. So I think just in general, after I spoke and shared my testimony, I did notice more openness and more people greeting me, because I go to a larger congregation, so there is a big crowd, and that means there's a lot of people who don't know me, and they often don't take the time to say hello or talk to me. But once I spoke to the whole crowd, people were more open to greeting me or giving me a hug during the greeting moment, back before the pandemic, that is.
So what can the church in general do better to include people with disabilities?
Ooh, it's hard to narrow it down to a short answer. I think mostly it means just getting to know the person. Like if you have someone with a disability in your congregation, you have to have a chance to talk to them outside of the church service. And I think it's also important if there are some like leadership people involved with helping with the disability ministry or just bridging the gaps, I think.
Are there any resources that you find helpful in like helping churches do that?
I read a book by Erik about including people with disabilities. I think that's the name of it. He is a professor out of Vanderbilt, and he writes a lot about what inclusion looks like from a standpoint of researching that demographic. So I read his book, and there's a lot of practical guidelines in his book, and about like coordinating with the different services in your community that work with people with disabilities, and like talking with churches at the same time.
Yeah, can you get me the name of that and send it to me, and then we'll put it in the show notes?
Yes, I can do that once we're off.
Okay, so we're jumping back a little bit. First of all, what did you major in college?
I majored in communication studies.
Me too. Oh my gosh. And I have to ask you, how did you end up sowing organic lettuce?
Well, that was an interesting beginning story. I had started to buy it as a customer because I eat a lot of salads, and I learned about the business when they were first starting out, and I saw that they were hiring part-time salespeople that you could work from home, and I thought, hey, I think I want to give this a try. And I applied, and I did it for a couple years, and that turned into a really cool way for me to practice public speaking, because I had to present the lettuce product to the different businesses or people's homes.
Yeah, that must have been interesting. Are there any good organic lettuce stories that you could tell us?
I don't know. I think it's just the funny part for me is I was starting to become a writer and speaker along the same line at the time, like along the same time that I was selling lettuce. So for me, it's like I started my public speaking by selling lettuce.
Yeah, that's an interesting public speaking story. So you're in seminary now, correct?
Yes.
So when do you graduate from seminary?
I'm not exactly sure. I'm taking it a little bit slowly just to take classes when my time and energy allow me to do that. So I probably have a couple more years before I'm officially graduating.
So what are you planning on doing after you get out of seminary?
Well, I hope to keep writing and speaking, and maybe once the pandemic improves, I can do more speaking like I used to do.
Yeah, so, like, what's your favorite class that you've taken in seminary so far?
I think my first one was very detailed. It was a theology class that also gave me a big history of what the church thinks and has said about disability over a whole lot of years. And I think that was a good beginning point for me to just jump right into both topics about the historical church leaders along with the theology. And I think that one really was eye-opening for myself.
So, where are you going to seminary?
It's called Western Theological Seminary, and it's located in Holland, Michigan.
Oh, so you're doing this online then?
Yes, it's all online. The benefits of technology.
Yes. I heard West Holland, Michigan. I was like, well, dang, that's a long commute. So, what do you enjoy doing? Like, what are your hobbies?
I love to read books, but I also love to sew. And recently I started trying my hand at watercoloring.
How do you sew with your disability, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, no, that's fine. I use my hands. So one hand I use to guide the fabric, and one hand I use to push the foot pedal. And if you go to YouTube and look up Laura C. Robb, I have a video that's called This Is How I Sew.
I will put that in the show notes because that is fascinating. So is there any research being done, like, about your disability? And is there any, like, helpful therapies? Because I know it's pretty rare, isn't it?
Yeah, they say about 1 in 3,000 are born with a form of arthrogryposis. And the other interesting fact is there are 400 plus types of it. So it encompasses a whole lot of different conditions. And when I was growing up, I had a lot of physical therapy. That was the main treatment route that my family chose. And there are researchers studying different things nowadays. I don't know a lot about it at the moment, except they're just trying to keep up with people, especially adults. There's not a lot of research with adults with this arthrogryposis. I think most of the research when I was younger was about kids and how to best treat them. It's about like maximizing your abilities with the muscles you do have and the joints that do work. Yeah. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. So do you wish there was more research for adults, or are you kind of happy with it being kid-focused?
I think I would like more research as adults, because sometimes I wonder if the experiences I have with my body now are related to arthrogryposis or something else, or is it just a normal part of life?
Yeah, so if there could be more like of how it affects your body.
As you get older, and just like kind of what to expect more so.
What is one thing that you wish people knew about your disability?
Well, the one I always come down to is that I use a wheelchair when I'm in public, and so people can see my disability physically. But I still wish that there was less of an assumption that I am also mentally affected by my disability.
I can attest to that. Yes. Yay.
Because there's still this problem in the world where people don't want to talk to me or they'll talk to my companion. There's just this weird barrier that is still very prevalent.
Why do you think that is, that they feel like you're mentally challenged too?
What was your question again?
Why do you think that they feel like you're mentally challenged too and not just physically?
I think there's just an assumption that is in culture, because I don't know exactly why. I think they just don't want to take the time to be uncomfortable and to get to know somebody who is very different than the way they look, maybe.
Yeah, I guess. And like the representation that we see on TV up until recently has been largely people with mental disabilities, so maybe that's a reason.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, that does not help. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But yeah, it's a stinky barrier that needs to go away. Okay, so our last two questions that we always ask are, number one, what inclusion is, fill in the blank.
Inclusion is really, to me, it's about belonging. It's not just me being physically present somewhere. It's about me having space with my peers in a place where I also belong.
And what has got you hopeful right now?
What's got me hopeful right now?
Yes.
The summer season and just being able to reconnect with friends again after this long pandemic.
That is a great answer. Thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome. Thanks for the invite.
And we will see you guys next episode. Bye, guys.
Thanks for listening to Wheel With It. You can support the show by visiting our website, wheelwithit.com, following us on social media, and financially supporting us. You can find all those links in the show notes. See you next time.